Hello everyone, my name is Matthew McCabe. I'm the professor of audio technology at Columbus State University in Columbus, Georgia at the Schwab School of Music. And I want to show you a command line script that I wrote to make life easier if you are the owner of a Midas M32, like we are. I teach at Columbus State, but I also do a lot of work down at a live music venue called the Loft, and we use this in one of the live performance spaces, and we actually do have the M32R. And if you look at the back of the M32R, you have these lovely SD card slots back here, which you can use to capture 32 channels of audio straight off the console. Not complaining about this console at all. I think it sounds great. I love Midas products for a very long time. I'm also assuming that the Behringer X32 variants also record in this way. So again, no shade to Midas or Behringer, nice consoles, but recording onto the SD cards and actually getting the files into a usable state is, quite frankly, really a pain. So I've written a script to help us ease the pain a little bit of getting this done. So let me just talk through a few things really quickly before we get into this. If you copy the files off of your Midas M32 or Behringer X32, then you're probably familiar with files that look like this. All right, this is a show that we did with Dave Egger, who is a really awesome cellist, and he's played with everybody. He is the cellist on Coldplay, Viva La Vida, and he toured with a bunch of people, Evanescence and all that stuff. So we were lucky enough, we know Dave. He's really good friends with my colleague James Ogburn, who's the composition professor here at Columbus State. So we've now brought Dave in a couple times. Friday night a couple of weeks ago, Dave gave a masterful jazz show down at the Loft, and we recorded it on our Midas M32. So what we end up with are these files. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what is going on with these files? Because they're all 4.29 gigabytes. These are a little bit larger, but that's probably because I was messing with them. But when you copy the files off of the SD card, this is what they look like. So a couple of things. The first file in this file set is 1. Now the Mac doesn't like to sort this correctly. 1 is the first file. So I'm going to get myself out of here for a second, and I'm going to bring Pro Tools over here and show you just kind of how annoying this is to import the audio into a Pro Tools session. So if I go here, they're sitting on the desktop, and I've got this. File number 1 is the first file in the set. And just for clarity, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then 10. Okay, now I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you're not a computer programmer. So just a quick note. The files off the M32 are numbered in hexadecimal. This means base 16. So we don't just have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, and then 10, 11, 12, etc. So my file set, you can see there I have 12 files. Not 12 files, but it goes up to 12. So it is actually a total of, because that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 files. If you've done HTML, writing HTML, you're familiar with hexadecimal because it's used for the colors in HTML. But yes, 1 through F, and then you go to the second digit because it is base 16. So, but I digress. We're going to get file number 1 here, and we're going to copy it into my Pro Tools session. Notice that the console records at 32-bit 48 kilohertz. Pro Tools is telling me that I can add this directly to the current session, even though my session... Nope, maybe I can't open that right now. Wait a minute. My current session is 48 kilohertz 24-bit. So I guess we can mix bit depths now in Pro Tools. I'm not sure, but let's see what happens when we import this. Okay, it is 9:46 p.m. I'm going to copy file number 1 in. Let's see how long this takes. All right, now I want to get this show ready. We're going to put them on new tracks, and it's going to take a second here to get everything imported, and then Pro Tools is going to calculate the waveforms, which it actually did fairly quickly. All of the at least in my mind, all of the convenience of being able to record to an SD card is basically gone now, because in this particular mode, the M32 is capturing all 32 channels off of the board. So number one, we have a lot of empty channels here. All right. Number two, importing this, at least into Pro Tools, maybe other DAWs behave differently. I'm not going to be a Pro Tools zealot. It's just what I use. You can use it however you want. But the channels are also in the wrong order. So that's problematic. Another problem here is that this is only like 11 minutes and 39 seconds of audio. So I've got a lot of wasted space here. The next thing I have to do, by the way, because the show starts right there-ish, or whatever, we started recording 10 minutes before or something like that. So you can sort of see how many empty channels there are. The channels are in the wrong order. We've got 1, 10, 11, 12, blah, 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 and then 2 and 3 down here. So all of the work that we did to do kick, snare, tom 1, tom 2 is all out of order. We're going to have to move these all around to get them in the correct spot. To top it off, I also now have to go import the second file, which is 2. Let's copy that guy. And we're going to put it in there. I have to do this all over again. Put it on the clip list. And then I have to drag it here. Put myself in shuffle mode and butt these right up against each other. All right, now in my case for this show, I've got 18 files, so it's like that Robin Williams stand-up comedy special where he's talking about golf and you go, you have to do it 18 times. All right, now if I was going to mix this myself, we might be in pretty good shape because, let's see, I could just erase these empty tracks. Go through all of that, etc., etc. Once I have everything imported. I've got to import all 32 at a time and jam them right up next to each other. If I needed to send mono files, like for example the kick file, right, and then I forget what this, like keyboard or something, I would have to then export each one of these individually, bounce them out as mono files, and send them to the client. For example, if Dave wanted to use this to make a live album, we're doing a lot of unnecessary labor here. Oh, that's also in the wrong place. So we're very error prone, and it's really not a great solution. So I will just show you what I've done here, and I'm going to minimize this guy and what I've done is written a shell script that will do all of that for you. So essentially, what this script does, it splits the files from the M32 into individual mono files, and then it merges all of them together into full-length files. In other words, this is a 32-channel WAV file that has all the channels from the console for 11 minutes and 39 seconds. This is the next 11 minutes. This is the next 11 minutes. This is the next 11 minutes. So what I want to do is split this out and get mono channels as if we had plugged in Pro Tools to the console via USB or something like that. Or, and again, no shade, like other consoles do. So it's actually not too complicated. You do have to use the terminal for this. So perhaps, and again, this could just be inspiration for someone else to take my ideas and modify them and make them better. All right, if you're not familiar, just a couple of notes. Things that you need to have installed. All right, I am currently running Big Sur. Monterey will also work. Make sure that your terminal is running ZSH, the Z shell. I believe that is the default on Big Sur and above. If you do not have the Z shell installed, you may have to install it. I'm not sure if this will run on older versions of macOS, but somebody could try it. The thing one need to install is Homebrew. And once Homebrew is installed, you need to install socks. And installing, that's just the quickest way to do it. If you're a command line guy like I am, you can just install socks on its own and it'll work. But Homebrew is really great, and there's actually a lot of tools available on Homebrew that are quite useful for people who do audio work. So go to homebrew or brew.sh. This is how you install it. You can just copy that command line right into the terminal and let it do its thing. And then once it's done, you literally, like, you type brew install socks, and then it'll do it. All right, SOCKS stands for Sound Exchange. That's a great piece of open source software that's going to do all of the underlying work here. All right, so let's watch this thing chug away. My folder is on my desktop, and it's in the Dave Egger folder, so I'm going to navigate there, and you can see there's all the WAV files. By the way, very important to not change the file names off of the M32 or the X32, I guess, if it saves. I'm guessing it does save it this way. Because notice that when I have listed them here on the command line, they are in the correct order. 1 through 9, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then 10, 11, 12. And the numbers will continue to go up like that if your show is longer, because 4.29 gigabytes, I suppose, is the file size limit for an MS-DOS SD card or something like that. I don't remember those. I don't remember that long ago. But in any case, set it as executable, and you can just execute it like this. If the script file is in the same directory as all of the files from the console, it will do its job by itself. So I'm going to let this thing run, and I'm going to leave this open so everyone can see when it's generating the files what's happening. And I'll probably put this in time lapse so that you can you don't have to like watch, because it's going to take quite a while to do this. You know, we're slicing up. See how big this is. We're slicing up 77 gigabytes of audio. So here we go. By the way, it's called the MX32 Splurge. That's short for split and merge, because that's what it's going to do. Split the multi-channel files into mono files and then merge them together. So here we go. So as it turned out, put the little routine in there to determine whether or not the files had audio in them or not. But when I was testing it, I just had it show me the command that it was going to execute to delete those files. But it's not actually running it. So you see they're not disappearing over here. We can do that manually at the end. And in the version of the script that I put up on this video, I'll make sure that's uncommented. And we're going to talk about the nerdy bits here in just a second. So let's let this finish and then we'll come back. All right, looks like we're done. So let's actually prune these silent files manually. And then we'll talk about some of the nerdy stuff. So let's see, 32, 31, 30, 28, 27, 26. So 18 through 32 are all silent. All right, now they still have a size to them because they're filled with zeros. And actually, just trivia side note, they're not filled with zeros. There are errors in there that you can detect. If you actually import those files into a DAW and put a lot of gain on them, you can see the errors generated by the console, which is kind of interesting. Probably par for the course on any digital board. So let's see. 16 we can get rid of. 11, 12, 13 can be deleted. Eight is silent. 5 is silent. 4 and 3 are silent. So here we are with the 9 actual channels that were used, I guess. Let's go back over here to Pro Tools. And this is a new session. I'm going to import audio. Let's grab all these guys, copy them over. Let's put them on a new track. Calculate the waveform overviews. There we have a lovely little session. Now this took a long time, I believe. Let's see, we started, it was at 9:55 p.m. So that took the better part of an hour. But this is 209 minutes and 2 seconds of audio. That's a long time. We just kept rolling on it. So it's quite long. You can see they did like 3 sets with some sizable breaks in between. Notice too, by the way, the channels are now in order. So these are the drums, I believe. There's the bass channel. Keys. So that is, to me at least, much more convenient. You could, in fact, if you were just sending the files to the client, you could just run the script, send them these, or rename them if you're feeling convenient. So let's go a little bit into the nerdy bits, just to show you if you want to modify the behavior of this script. It's not too difficult. So without getting into too much detail, so we don't intimidate people too much. I am not the greatest shell scripter in the universe, so forgive me if you are a Z shell expert and I've done something that's sort of off kilter here. But so basically we get a list of the files in the current directory that end with everything .WAV. Run them through a sort, which probably isn't necessary, but just to be safe. Show them to you. All right, then we're gonna, it just looks at the first one in the list, assuming that all of the files in the folder have the same number of channels. And it asks SOX to give it the number of channels. And then it tells you, okay, we got 32 channels, blah, blah. So this will work if you put the M32 into, what is it, 2, 8, 16, 32 channel recording mode. It makes a folder to split the files into, and then steps through all of them. And you can see right here, when I bring up the first file, or each file in order, and you do it the number of channels times, and I am converting them right here to 48-bit 48 kilohertz 24-bit. One of the things that I've noticed as this was running and thought about is that if you actually look at the files that it has copied here, these are copies of the original files, but in Pro Tools it's put these suffixes on the ends of them. And I think that's because if you go rewind the video back to when I was converting the files, WAV files are supposed to be big endian, and I believe SOX was just reporting that they're little endian. So that might be Pro Tools like just adjusting for the fact that the bits are in the wrong order. Although you can have little endian WAV files too. I mean, that's not that big of a deal. So anyway, not to nerd out too much, but basically this loop of the script goes through, splits out all of the channels from the big giant files that come off the console, and then it makes a directory to merge them into, steps over each one, sorts them according to how we named them up here, and then dumps them all to SOX to be merged into a channel. At the end, we're going to delete the split files folder. That's the part that was created up here to store all the split channels into. If you don't want to do that, you could remove that line of code or comment it out. You could delete everything like from here down if that's all you wanted to do is split them. All right, and then down here we're going to step through all of those merged files. See ls merge files and sort them. And one kind of confusing thing that I ran into when I was doing this is that SOX has this stat effect where, so I'm looking at a file and I want SOX to analyze it. So I say there was no output file. I want to look at the stats for the file. And I just want the volume adjustment. How much gain would I have to put on this file to get it to, 0 dBFS? SOX actually reports that stat to standard error instead of standard out, which is kind of annoying, and I was totally not aware of this, but that's how you redirect standard error to standard out. So you learn something new every day, I guess. As it turns out, shell scripts can't handle decimal places, so that's how we chop them off. And then this is the threshold that I came up with just by doing a little bit of testing. If you run this script and you find that your recordings are so quiet that this part of the script thinks they are silent and they are not, you can increase this number. The files that were actually silent had like gain levels of like 20,000 or 30,000 all the way up to like 65,000. But the files that did have audio in them had like gain scaling factors of like 7. So all I did was import one of them into Pro Tools and reduce the gain on it until it was the quietest thing I could possibly hear by like turning my speakers all the way up. And then I ran the analysis of the stat effect in SOX on it, and it was like 990. So that's probably a really good threshold. And as you can see here is the line that I did not comment out, so we can actually just put that back into effect here. write that. So I'll make sure to post that updated version of the script on the page here with the video. So that's about it. Places that you could modify. Obviously, if you wanted to change the names so that it's like channel, not channel something wave, just edit that line. You could change what it converts it to. So if you want to go 32-bit float to 1644.1, just change it right there. This bit rate and sampling rate. Sorry, not bit rate, bit depth. I am a professor of this stuff. All right, don't be afraid that this says remix. That is just the method in SOX to export a channel. It's not actually mixing it with anything, so your audio is not getting processed an additional time. Some people are paranoid about that. And of course, if you're a scripter, please send me revisions or any problems that you see, or things that could be fixed, or if you have any problems with this where it won't work on your system, let's try to make it better. And if somebody who is a better programmer than me would like to make this into a full-fledged app, please credit me. And when you put it on the App Store, maybe you'll be kind enough to send me a pizza or something. All right, thanks so much for watching this, guys and gals and students and teachers and everybody else. And hopefully this will help you be more productive in your audio engineering tasks.